but everything else looks good. So, all right, I'm gonna do the patch rundown. Let me pull this up here real quick. The 7.24 patch notes. All right. Okay, I got the Maokai. All right, so I'm probably gonna upload this to YouTube, so I'll just like do no music. So let's see here. Let's go over the patch. We got the 7.24 patch rundown. What do we got up in here? So we got a Brilliant Soul. They're lowering the cooldown of his ultimate by a whopping 10 seconds. This will be the game breaker that changes the game completely for Aurelion Soul. That 10 seconds will mean that he's OP as fuck. No, never mind. That doesn't change anything. This literally does nothing. Alright, we got the meat damage up on the Bard and the base health regen. This is interesting, because I feel like the problem with Bard is he gets beat down by a lot of the poke champions, but later on he has his ultimate. I don't know, I've seen some Bards pop off, but I feel like his lane phase is like so fucking volatile. So maybe having this health regen will help out a lot with that, getting poked out in lane. And then meep damage, like, I don't know if you've been hit by like a multi-stack meep, like mid and late game on Bard, but like, he fucking two-shots people if you have a lot of meeps. And also, this is going to make his early trades better because it's just 10 more damage on the early trades. I think Bard is still an extremely high skill cap champion, so I don't think you're going to see like a lot of them. But for the people who are really good at Bard, I'm sure like some people will play Bard. Like, I feel like Bard is like the Lee Sin of bot lane, where it's like you can always pull him out, but like when you get done playing him, you like feel mentally exhausted because it's just like, well, fuck, I had to do all that work when I could have just played Leona and like smashed my face into the keyboard. It's like, alright, I'm just gonna play Leona now. That's just how Bard feels. Alright, Camille. They did shield duration increased by 0.5. That will change his or her trading windows, I guess. They nerfed Bramble Vest, which is the big thing for Camille. So maybe like this adaptive defense will help a little bit. Window to recast, 3.5 seconds delayed for empower attack, still 1.5 timer. These are just like quality of life buffs to Camille. I don't really think that they're going to make that much of a difference. I think the real buff here to Camille is that the fact that they're later, what I'll talk about later in the patch, is that they're changing Bramble Vest. So, but she will probably be viable in this patch. Darius. See here, bleed damage +3. That's whatever, I guess. And then at 5 stacks, it's 15. Those are actually like respectable damage increases on the blade, I guess. And then the Noxian might also got an 80 increase of 30 at max rank. I mean, those are like some respectable buffs, but I think Darius is still the exact same champion where he's just like, he gets ganked and dies like every single gank in the entire world, and it's kind of hard to like initiate fights with them later in the game. So he's kind of like overshadowed by a lot of like the tanks and like the other bruisers in the top lane. I think he has a place in the game and he's like decent. But there's like a couple Darius like one tricks that I think play up to master right now, so I think he'll be like somewhat viable. Like these changes are like just quality of life changes. I think you would see a little bit of him, but I don't think he's gonna be like, oh my god, he's broken. Maybe the nerf to Bramble Vest will also help out with him. Let's see, Evelyn. These are just bug fixes, so I'm not gonna look at that. Mystic Shot. They lowered the ratio. That's a decent ratio nerf actually. That's actually not a bad ratio nerf. Like, right now, Ezreal's insanely broken to the point where he'll just, like, 1v5 hard carry the game. So this is a decent nerf. I don't think this is going to be enough to make him bad. It'll still be, like, decent. I think also I read later in the patch notes that they're nerfing Klepto. So depending on how badly that Klepto got nerfed on the amount that the gold comes out, I think Ezreal will just be, like, a more balanced champion. He might be overshadowed by Misfortune now, but I still think he's going to be pretty good. Galio. They lowered the damage on the passive by 0.2. I don't think that's a big deal. As long as you can still like clear backline with a Q and a passive proc, I think it'll be okay. I think you'll still be able to do that with the AP ratio like this. And then now your W does 60 or 180 damage at max rank with a ratio. So it kind of looks like they shifted some of the damage from the passive onto the W, which is pretty nice because like your W just doesn't really do it. It doesn't feel that rewarding when you hit it sometimes because it doesn't do any damage if nobody's around to follow it up. So I think for AP Galio, this will make him really scary actually, because it just gives him another spell like a respectable ratio. 0.6 is like decent. On an AOE ability, a 0.6 ratio on like an AB Galio, that's pretty respectable. So I could see this actually being pretty nice. Not bad at all. And then they also lowered the cooldown on E by quite a bit. I think these are actually pretty nice buffs to Galio. I haven't really seen that many Galio players on this current patch, but I think you're gonna see him returning a little bit in the new patch as well, because of some of these changes. And also, I think that they're nerfing like some of the champions that counter him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some Galio popping off. I like Galio; he's a pretty fun champion. Let's see, the Grove. This doesn't really change anything. I mean, Ivern still is just squishy as shit, I guess. Ivern's still Ivern, man. He's not going to do anything. Jarvan, they nerfed 2% on his passive. That's pretty annoying for jungle clearing in your opening burst. And they also did 20 damage nerf on the Q on later ranks. His early game is pretty much going to be exactly the same from what I can see. But this is definitely a nerf to his late game. Like, I want to show you guys something. Let me look at some statistics here. Like, just to put it in perspective of like what this change does to Jarvan, like you can look at his win percent by game length. So like pretty much Jarvan's gonna be the same champion in the early game, but then like at pretty much like this change is gonna go hit you between like the around like the 20-minute marker. So like this will, you can see like how low his win rate goes as the game goes on later. So I think his drop off will just be like much more substantial than it is now. He'll still be the exact same champion he is in the early game as long as his jungle clear is fine though, which it should be fine. But he's just gonna fall off like a lot harder. And I mean, right now he already falls off super hard. He's like overshadowed by Sejuani and things like that. I think people will still play him. Let's see here. We got the Karthus. A 0.15 ratio buff. That's a pretty big buff on an ability that's guaranteed to hit 5 people. That's actually a really nice buff. I'm not really sure what you would go on Karthus. I guess would you go Airy or Comet? I think if somebody can figure out a good rune build for him, I think that Karthus might actually be reasonable in some areas. That's actually, I mean, that's a pretty big buff though. 0.15, so if you have 1,000 AP, that's 150 damage extra, so. Which, I mean, you never get 1,000 AP. So, in grand scheme of things, this is going to be like a 60 damage buff on his ultimate, which is... It's aight. It's aight. I mean, Karthus is still Karthus, dude. Leona, they nerfed the damage by 20 on the W. That's not bad. That's actually not a bad nerf. It's going to hurt her all-in a good deal, but I think she'll still be the same obnoxious champion. 20 damage isn't going to be, like, the make or break. I think she'll just become, like... balanced, I want to say, or somewhat more balanced, but she's still like, I think she's still good. This doesn't make her like bad. She's still a good champion. Malzahar, they nerfed the AP ratio by 0.3. That's actually a lot, and they lowered the base damage as well. That's a pretty damn big damage nerf, especially considering that you get QSS in the game and it hurts his ultimate. So I think like Malzahar is going to be a lot more about hitting your Q and then like stacking E on people and stuff like that. So this is definitely a big nerf for the ultimate. Really, it's a really big damage nerf. So I think Malzahar will just become a balanced champion and still just be reasonably viable. But I don't think he's going to be broken anymore with this nerf. This is a pretty big nerf to the damage on the ultimate. Maokai, they nerfed Bramble Smash by 25. That's a pretty decent sized nerf, actually, because usually you get off like 3 or 4 Bramble Smashes in a team fight, maybe even more than that. Depending on how fast you can clear the back line, because usually you can clear you can just Q twice at level 9 and then you just like completely clear a wave and push super hard. But I think that I saw later that they're buffing Sunfire, so I'm like on the fence between this is going to be like a bad nerf to Maokai, or if like the Sunfire is just going to make up for it. I think Maokai is still just going to be the same damn champion. Like maybe his damage is lower, but I mean Maokai's just fucking Maokai, dude. You just press W on people and it's like I can't kill this guy. He's just cancer. Let's see. Then Morgana, they buffed her base mana regen and they lowered her mana regen growth. Morgana heals for 40% of levels. This spell vamp change is not that big a deal. More spell vamp, but doesn't really fix any of her innate problems. 4 minutes. 3 minutes soil cooldown is now reduced by 5% whenever passive soul siphon triggers. I mean, depending on how fast this resets your W, I would have to feel it in game. I think Morgana just suffers from issues where she can't really do consistent sustained damage in team fights, and she's like pretty useless as a support after a certain point because she gets outscaled. So I think that depending for mid lane Morgana, this could change something if this actually procs your cooldown super fast, but we'll see. I mean, I don't really know. Morgana's just always had the problem where she's on the fence between support and carry champion for mid lane, and she just doesn't scale because of that. Like she just gets overshadowed by like Orianna. Like Orianna always overshadows all the support carry champions mid just because she just like does everything so much better. So Ornn, 2% off the max health damage and 1 second cooldown difference. I mean, Ornn is just broken as fuck, and this doesn't do anything to him. He's still just gonna be the most obnoxious broken champion in the entire game. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a good Ornn player, but they'll just solo carry the whole game. And his laning pattern is like, he just beats like everybody in lane. His like team fighting is just insane. He's just such an obnoxious champion. Like this literally does like nothing to him. He's the exact same champion. Broken Wings got a marginal damage increase 5 and then the 80 ratio 0.5. This is just quality of life. Doesn't really do anything. Same champion. Twilight Assault, 10 less damage. I think Shen's the exact same champion. Don't really think this changes very much. I think he still does like decent damage. This literally changes nothing on Shen. Sona, they made the mana cost on the Q a lot more. That's actually a pretty big mana hit. 15 is a lot on an ability like that. Even on the base, like a 60 mana for the Q level 1 that's a pretty big mana hit. And then the aura damage also got nerfed. Ooh, it got cut in half at max. That's a pretty sizable nerf to Sona. I think that's a really big nerf, to be honest. I think you're gonna start seeing a lot of other supports that overshadow Sona because of this. Like, that's a really big nerf, to be honest. I think she's gonna move down a decent bit as far as her like viability for support, but she'll still be like viable in some cases. Like she'll still be fine, I think, but that's a huge fucking mana nerf, so it's gonna be really hard to like trade with a lot of lanes. They nerfed Tarek's base armor. I mean, that 5 armor is like whatever. Like this motherfucker still has 40 armor at level 1, so good luck. That's still really tanky. Xin Zhao, they nerfed his health by 30 and his W80 ratio by 10. Xin Zhao is incredibly broken in skirmishing right now, but I still think with these nerfs he'll beat every single champion in a skirmish level 3. And he'll still be the same champion, I think. Maybe a little worse scaling, but I think Zin's the same champion. One nerf that I know that they did do is they changed press the attack, which we'll talk about later, which is a bigger nerf to Zin. I think his win rate will go down a little bit, maybe like 2 or 3% because of that. But I think Zin is still like going to be a reasonably viable champion and be a very strong pick. Yorick, oh wow, 3 damage. You really nerfed him. Okay. Zoe, I think Zoe's like the most broken champion in the game right now for mid. She's incredibly powerful, and when she's in the hands of like a good player, it just looks like she 1v5s the game. But she has a very high skill cap, so it's still to be determined how weak or strong she is. But I think she's insanely strong. This spell thing is 20 seconds. I haven't really played much Zoe, so I can't really give my input on her that well, but these, just like kind of glancing at these numbers, I don't think she's like getting nerfed that hard. I think people who are really good at Zoe are still going to be really good at Zoe and still be obnoxious, just because of the way that her damage trades go, and they're very hard to, like, they have a lot of range on them. So I think that she's still going to be fine. I'm not going to really comment on her too much because I haven't really played her that much, so I can't give you good input on her. Let's see. So Zyra, mana regen 3 and mana growth. So pretty much the same Morgana treatment. Doesn't really matter. The passive 900. And plant duration 8. Passive seed. W seeds unchanged. Oh, the plants have a lot more health now. 8 base. That's pretty big, actually. And plants give less gold. That's a decent passive buff. It's not bad. Plants now die instantly to melee attacks, but can survive more hits from damage over time effects in small minions and monsters. They're less durable in the late game against all other sources, since ranking up W no longer increases their health. As a side note, there are a few more plants overall. Huh. Okay. That's fine. I mean, I don't really think that melees are even like walking up and hitting plants anyway, so this taking 4 autos to kill is actually going to be pretty big, even with the W change. When Zyra, okay, no longer grants Zyra's plants 50% extra maximum health. Okay. When Zyra kills an enemy, rampant growth recharges time is reduced by 20%, and 100% per champion takes down. That feels like more of a mid lane buff to Zyra, although I don't really see that many mid lane Zyras. And then enraged plants gain 50% health. These are just interesting tweaks. These are mostly tweaks to mid lane Zyra, because you're not really killing minions and stuff. I don't know. Don't really see that much mid lane Zyra though, just because it's kind of weird how her damage comes out and her scaling and how like immobile she is. I mean, we'll see. Maybe somebody will be popping off a mid lane Zyra, but I don't know if you're gonna see that much Zyra. Maybe she'll be played as support. We'll see though. I'm still on the fence about these changes. Bramble Vest got nerfed like a ton. Bramble Vest basically got put into the ground against Bruisers. So to put that into perspective, it's 3 plus 10% of bonus armor. So that's bonus armor I add you. So you need basically like to reach the 15, you need like, I want to say an item and a half worth of armor to just even like come, plus your base like bonus armor, to even come close to like what you were touching before on the old Bramble Vest. So this item it's just gutted. Like this item is just dead. Like the base Bramble Vest is it's just fucking dead. This item like doesn't even exist anymore. It's so bad. I mean, granted, it still gives like healing debuff, but it's just dead. Get it out of here. But they buffed Sunfire a lot actually. I don't know if you guys actually remember when people were just going Sunfire, Frozen Fist on every single champion and just like beating the living shit out of people. But these are the numbers that were on the item during that time. So it's exact same item pretty much as it was before at that time. So I'm sure that instead of just getting Bramble Vests on tanks, now the tanks are just going to go Sunfire, Frozen Fist, or Spirit Visage, and just like beat the living shit out of people and burn them to death over time. So also that allows tanks to push really fast too. So now you're going to have tanks of more priority. So we're back in the Sunfire days, boys. Bring it back. Let's see here. They changed a lot of the runes. Lethal tempo 4-second change. That's actually a pretty good change because you're thinking about how damage patterns go out from Kog'Maw and Twitcher, which are the 2 champions that use it right now. And you kind of want lethal tempo to be up on Kog'Maw every time your W's up. So this kind of sits more in line with that. So I think this is a pretty good lethal tempo buff for those kinds of champions. Really, really big buff for Kog'Maw actually. Press the attack. This is actually a huge nerf to a lot of champions. So exposure is now added to targets after the damage from the attack that applies it. So put this in perspective. Let's say you're playing Xin Zhao and you walk up and you auto somebody 3 times on Xin. Your third auto, which does increased damage on Xin, and your Q damage will not be amplified by the bonus of press the attack. So that actually is a substantial damage drop on trading patterns like with Xin and Shyvana and things like that. All the champions that use press the attack. And also for 80s, it's going to be a lot harder to stack that on in trades on the bot lane. So to also put that in perspective, let's say you're Vayne, you press the attack, you auto Q auto, like you're not going to get the bonus damage from press the attack either, you know? So it's like the way people trade is going to be a lot different. I think press the attack is going to be maybe overshadowed by lethal tempo in a lot of situations, or even fleet footwork maybe. Like this is pretty much like Warlords from before with the number changes. So like the attack damage heal ratio is now based on bonus attack damage, and as a critical hit, fleet footwork is healing is increased by 40% of your critical hit. Like this is going to heal a lot. I think a lot of ADCs might even start taking fleet footwork depending to deal with a lot of the poke lanes that are going down. So I could see this being okay, to be honest. Although this is not percent heal. I have to see more people mess around with fleet footwork, but I think that maybe people will be taking this again with these number changes. Let's see, heroism. I never see anybody really go over heal, so I can't comment on it. Triumph. This was the hands down the most broken rune, sub rune in the entire game. It's just like I can't even begin to say like how many fights I've lived through or like trades or skirmishes because I just get multiple triumph procs in like one single fight, or I have spirit visage and I get triumph procs. So I still think it's gonna be super good, but it's not like, I mean, 15%, dude. That's a lot of missing health gain right there. So it's actually like really big that they nerfed it. Presence of Mind. I haven't really even seen that many people go this, so I mean they buffed it. I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. Probably not going to be seeing that much. Coup de Gras. Damage changed by 1%. Still the same ability. No different. Eyeball Collector. Not that many people go Eyeball Collector. I think a lot of people go Zombie Ward instead, because I think Zombie Ward is just like super good. So this is change is irrelevant. Hunter, I'll hunt you. Tooltips for all 3 Hunter runes. This is just quality of life. Sorcery, slow resistance for phase rush for ranged champions. And this is just like a buff to champions like maybe Vladimir or Aurelion Sol that would go this ability. I haven't really seen that many people running phase rush, so we'll see how like it goes. But I think definitely a buff to Aurelion Sol. Celerity at a 1% movement decrease. I think this is a good nerf because I see so many people go Celerity, and like 4% movement speed is actually just way too much for a rune. I think 3% is like reasonable imbalanced, so it'll probably be pretty decent still. One more magic resist. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what that. It's just still the exact same thing. Now also boost shields and heals cast on the user. That's a pretty nice buff. It was a revitalized thing. And Overgrowth wasn't really changed. Inspiration. They nerfed. Yeah, this was an interesting Kleptomancy nerf, depending on like how they messed with the numbers. So loot table mechanism updated to decrease the variance in loot over time. So sometimes you'll be playing Klepto Ezreal and you'll get like the 100 gold stack like 5 times in a row, and you're just like, well, I guess I have like 1,000 gold at like 2 minutes. So like it's good that you're gonna tweak that. I have to see how like the loot mechanics work on it, but it seems like just more balanced overall. It's still gonna be good though. And then I don't know if you guys play ARMs, but they nerfed Dark Harvest. Feels bad, man. I think that's pretty much it for the patch. I don't think there's anything else in it. All right, guys, that's it for the patch rundown. Hey.